Truth and Reconciliation. I will hand the chair off to Councillor Corbett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We've gathered here to, wrong event. All right, in front of us we have our meeting agenda, and if I could have someone move to adopt the agenda. Councillor Cox.
I'll move
second
it. Sorry. Yeah, I'll move the agenda be adopted as presented.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Councillor Bath. Next item on the agenda is delegations, and I believe our first delegation is in regards to our audited financial statements to be presented by William Senfew of Avery Cooper. Floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, good evening everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is William Senfuma. I've been the auditor of the town for, I think this is my 4th or 5th year. To be honest with you, this is one of those communities I always look forward to coming. So it's a community that I really love. So I am being the audit, I'm really happy as well. I'm going to be presenting the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2025. And I'm going to start with what we call the audit-related items. The first one is, I don't know whether everybody can see my shared report here, the financial statements. So the structure of the financial statements has not changed, and the content, we expect there would be some changes when we expect them, they're going to send out a revised and an updated version of how the financial statements are going to be presented next year. So the structure, you can look at how the content and the structure is set up here in the table of contents. We have the management discussion and analysis. I just got a draft from the administration today. So I'll be going through this, and this forms part of the financial report that we send out when the financial statements are approved. We have the management's responsibility for reporting, because ultimately these are your financial statements, which is this copy here. You can take a look at your convenience. We have the independent auditor's report, which is this one here. We'll talk about that shortly. And then we have the financial statements themselves. So we have the statement of financial position, the statement of operations, you can call this revenue and expenditure report, the statement of changes in other financial assets, the statement of cash flows, and then notes to the financial statement. Now, when we say notes to the financial statement, this is really a breakdown to give more information about all the balances in the financial statements. And then we have the schedules. Now, the notes to the financial statements and all these schedules you see are really just to explain and give more information about the balances in these first 4 statements. So first off is our auditor's report. I'm happy to report again this year we are giving a clean audit opinion in our independent auditor's report. You can look at that, it's right here. So meaning that we don't have any major issues with the financial statements. The other item that we normally every year we have to remind council and administration is that ultimately these are your financial statements. So that's why we have this section, the auditor's report, to remind the administration and the council of your responsibilities for the financial statements. The auditor's report also has a section about the independent auditor's responsibility for these financial statements, and also gives you more detail about what an audit process involves, what we actually do in a bit of a summary. So this is the section here for the independent auditor's report. I'm just going to give you some key highlights about the financial statements. The first one, you can see I have just highlighted a few items here, balances. There's a balance here for cash and cash equivalents. It increased from 13 million last year to about 17 million this year. And the major reason for that is you had a number, I think 2 years worth of gas tax funding that had not been paid for 2023 and 2024. So they paid all that money, 2 million plus about $500,000 for this year. So that is the major reason for that increase in cash balances here. The gas tax that has been outstanding for a number of years, for a couple of years, that was paid during 2025. Now, but overall, there is this section here, number 2 here, which we call, I can make this one bigger, what we call the financial resources. The resources that you have available to finance operations, 20 million, almost 20.5 million, as compared to 18.5 million last year. So like I just said, the major change is because of that increase in cash here. And you can see this receivable is going down, amount owing to the town because of the payment. So that 3.8 million you see here, 2.2 million was actually gas tax. That's why this balance is moving from around 3.8 million to 1.9 because of that payment of the gas tax. And what it does, it increases your cash here. So almost 5 million compared to 18.5 to finance these liabilities, 12.1 million compared to about 11.4. So you have net financial resources, cash, receivables of about 8.4 million as of the end of December 31st, 2025. Now these ones here, the non-financial assets, are not really cash items like capital projects, like the machinery and equipment, buildings. That is the 53 million you see there. Inventory for consumption, especially land for sale, around 54 million. Mostly capital assets, buildings, roads, equipment, that total there, $53 million. Overall, your accumulated surplus is about 62 million compared to around 58 million last year. Yeah, so like I said, the highlight here, the major highlight is the increase in cash because of the payment of the gas tax funding for 2 years, and the increase in your net financial resources, that 8.4 million, and then the increase in the investment in capital projects. The movement from 50.5 to about 53.4 here is about $3 million. Those are the capital projects undertaken during the year. Yeah, so that is the statement of financial position there. The next one is what we call the statement of operations, which is what you can call it revenue and expenditure. So it shows the sources of funding, this section here, government transfers for operations like funding for water and sewage, funding for operations and maintenance, that 4.9 million, which is up from 3.7 million last year. Government transfers for capital, majorly community public infrastructure and gas tax here. Most of that funding is in form of the CPI and gas tax funding. Then the net municipal taxes, user fees. So overall, you have about 17.6 million this year compared to 14.2 last year. The budget was about 15.7 million. So your total income there, or total revenue, is about 17.5, which is up by about $3 million, about $3 million. And then you have your expenses here. Now these expenses are grouped by function, and there's a schedule for each of these. General government services, how much was spent, public safety and protective services, public works and transportation. Each of these balances, there is a schedule for each of these balances that breaks down these totals. So overall, you have about 13.5 million in expenses. Now, you have to note that this 13.5 million actually excludes the capital expenses or capital cost, the cost of the capital projects we just talked about, which is about 3 point something million. So while this amount here for the $4 million in surplus looks big, it's actually excludes the capital cost. I just did a summary here of the actual, how you would look at it. So it would be this surplus here minus the funding, this funding here for capital projects, plus amortization. So this would be the amount that we would be looking at as actually your net surplus cash.
I had a
About
question
$2 million,
about user
because this-
fees. The user fee expense, if you go up, I just want to ask you if you can clarify, go up a little? Right, keep going, right there.
Okay.
Yeah, your user fees and sales of goods, it looks like they're going down. Do we know why they went down about 60,000?
This one here, this number here. Is that number you're talking
Oh,
about?
sorry, I was
3.6?
Yeah, 3.7 versus 3.5 versus 3.
Yeah. The user fees.
Yeah, it went down by maybe about what, give or take about 170,000. I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. I think this is a question for management really to answer. I'm not sure why it went down, but that's the number we have.
And then the investment income looks like it went down as well. Is that because we're losing on what does that mean? Investment income line?
Yeah, the investment income is determined by the rate of the rate of interest that they pay and the amount of deposit balances you have. As every month they give you, depending on how much you have, if you have higher balances and the rate of interest is high, you get more.
Sure. But if we had more cash in the bank, wouldn't we have made more interest?
Yes, you will get more interest depending on how the rate of interest, yes. Are you saying because of the increase here?
Yeah, we had $2 million extra cash in the bank.
Yeah.
So why did we lose interest?
I think first of all, this
Investment.
increase in this increase here, this money I think came in a little late. I don't think it came in at the beginning of the year that you had all those balances at the very beginning of the year. It's money that came in, the increase here came in a little late in the year. Now I didn't look at the actual interest that was being paid compared to last year. That I think management can answer, can give an explanation to that. Yeah, but that is the amount that we could substantiate, because normally it's easy to substantiate because you just look at how much money is being paid in interest every month by looking at the bank statement. But as to the actual cause, I think that's a management thing to deal with.
Okay.
So overall, that we just talked about that 4 million in surplus, but that is the increase in accumulated surplus of 62.4 million, which is the balance you have here, this one here. Now this statement here, statement number 4, is the statement of cash flow. This shows how much money you received and how much money was spent and spent where. Cash from operations is 7.7, but you use part of that to finance the purchase of tangible capital assets. We just talked about the 3.8 million, and then you paid. You had that long-term debt, which was paid off during the year. So the increase in cash is that 3.8 million. We just talked about that increase. That part of that is actually the money that came from gas tax. So the increase is 3.8 compared to about 356,000 last year. So that is the opening balance last year, plus the increase, that is 17 million that we have here. Now we're gonna, I don't know whether you have any questions before I move on to the next item.
Does anyone have any questions so far? Do you like if we just interrupt you as you go?
So what did you say?
Would you prefer if we have a question just to interrupt as we go along?
Yeah, because you may have questions that can't wait. I'm okay with that.
Okay, we have no questions right now.
So the other highlight is about the summary. I just talked to the acting senior admin officer just before this meeting started, and it's about this note here. We talked about this one. Now, what this one shows is the cash you have, the 17 million, this amount here.
Are you on note 5? What page are you on?
No, 5.
I'm on page 12.
Okay.
Page 12. This is the cash we just talked about, the 17 million. Now, this cash is funding gas tax, because when you receive money for gas tax projects, they give you money, but most of the time you don't use it all. So part of that money that is not used is here. It's part of that money. And also the community public infrastructure. So the gas tax has 4.2 million that you're supposed to have, that is expected not to have been spent. And community public infrastructure has 2 million. In total, this is about 6.4 million. Now, I just talked to the senior admin officer. I think there is going to be a movement, because you have reserves here. You have the reserve for general operations, the interruption insurance reserve, reserve for utility infrastructure, and the reserve for environmental services. This is the amount is supposed to be in the bank. That is the amount supposed to be in the bank for that other reserve. 3.5 million for the infrastructure replacement reserve, and $1.2 million for the environmental services. Now, when you add this, you can see these are underfunded. It's just because the money is tied up, so it's just moving money between bank accounts so that these reserves are funded. You have enough money. So that 17 million, when you look at it, it says tied up in gas tax and community public infrastructure, as well as in reserves. Money for operations right now is about 2.5 million as of the end of the year, December 31st, 2025. But your liquidity position is good, I would say that. So like I said, some of these notes are ready to give you more details about the breakdown of those balances. For example, these accounts payable and accrued liabilities. If you go back here, it's just a breakdown of those balances like we said. This number here, this note here, that 1.8 million. So we break it down in note 7 to give you more details about what really makes up that balance. This number here. Accounts payable, accrued liabilities, tangible capital assets. Same for deferred revenue, same for the long-term debt we just talked about, that this debt was fully paid off. That's why you have a 0 there. These are the reserves, your reserve, the reserve for operations, the reserve service interruption insurance, reserve for utility infrastructure. That is the total 6.5 million you have in reserves. This is the breakdown of your net municipal taxation that makes up that balance you have on the revenue and expenditure report. This is again the summary of your reserves. Now, this is a government transfer. This is a list of all the funding you received for various undertakings. This is the unrestricted funding that you get. Operations and maintenance, 2.466 million. Water and sewage subsidies, 798. It was 671,000 last year. And this year, you got the carbon tax revenue sharing grant. Now, this amount is actually for 2 years that I gave you. This 136,000. Now, you have also a listing of all the other funding for different projects, which are repayable repayable, meaning if you don't use all the money and you have a surplus on the project, you have to pay it back. So in total, you had 9.1 million, this number here, as broken down by this funding for operations, and this is for capital. And those are the numbers you have up here. These two numbers here. This one, these two, and they make up that total. This total. You have some funding agreements that you have already signed with the funders, but you haven't received that money because they're multi-year projects. Some of them are listed here, investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. That goes on until 2027. The slope monitoring, it ends March 31st, 2028. The Housing Accelerator Fund, which has just started in 2025, it's going on up into 2028 at $654,000 every year for 4 years, I think. The energy, this one is coming to an end, I think, in March 2026. The Emergency Medical Responder, EMR. Investing in Canada Infrastructure, this is the landfill expansion project, which goes on until 2027. You have, again, another investing in Canada Infrastructure Program funding for the Riverside Park and Lookout Upgrade project. It goes on until 2027. And the Small Communities Homelessness Fund, which is a $50,000 funding every year for 3 years until March 31st, 2028. So that is the total you have of the funding you have signed for, but it's still multi-year, it hasn't been received. It's about 4.4 million in total. These are the schedules we just talked about. They just break down. This is your capital projects in terms of buildings, how much you have in investments in buildings, in waste management facilities, parks, roads, IT and other infrastructure, vehicles. So it gives you really a breakdown of how much investment you have in those areas. So that's the total 53.4 million we talked about, that number there. So these are the schedules, this is the schedule for general government services, the sources of income for this function and how much is spent, and the categories of expenses and how much in total. This is the schedule for public safety and protective services. This is the schedule for public works and transportation services, majorly expenses here. There is not a lot of sources of income for this project. This is for recreation. The most, this one of the, I think the second biggest department you have after general government services. So you have these government transfers, especially child care grants here, that 1.7 million, mostly child care grants. And then the expenses here. This is for water and sewage. So 2.3 million against expenses of 2.3. But take note of this number here. This amortization. That's not a cash item. So if you have because it shows you have a deficit here, but if actually you back out this 489, there is a surplus, because this is an account to account for the loss in value of your tangible capital assets. So that's the environmental fund. The last bit here, this is the Canada Community Building Fund. That is the new name for gas tax. So this is a schedule, shows how much was, so you had an allocation of 1,065,000, and that's the interest we just talked about, the interest earned on that account for gas tax. And this is the spending for fire hydrants, for salon, this is the sewage lagoon, and then main lift station upgrade for 1 million. The total is 2.2 this year. And this is the funding that has not been spent for gas tax, 4.7 million, which is for the future. And this is the community public infrastructure we just talked about. The allocation was 1.8 million here. And that is the interest income earned on the account for community public infrastructure. So the total spending under this program is 2.1. The amount that has not been spent is about 2.2 million for CPI. The last schedule that I need to talk about is what we call the expenses by object. Now, you will realize when we are presenting these statements, initially, they are presented by object, by function, sorry. Here. These are functions. General government, public safety, public works. We also give you a schedule to show you the total expenses regardless of the function, regardless of whether it's government or government general government services or recreation. These are the total expenses by category across the organization, across the town as an organization. For example, if you wanted to get the total, these are the total wages and benefits, 6.3 million compared to 5.7 last year. The budget was actually very close to actual, 6.2 million. This total is the total expense we just talked about. Look at that, 2.2 million is actual amortization we just talked about, which is an accounting entry. So this is the list of your organization-wide expenses in total. Per category, per expense by object. And the last schedule here is a schedule that is required by MACA to present the salaries, honorary and travel expenses on the mayor and council. You can look at that at your convenience. This is what I wanted to talk to you about today as far as the financial statement, the audited financial statements are concerned. So we have two layers of approval. The first approval is by the mayor and the council of these financial statements. And then we also get an approval from the Department of Municipal and Community Affairs, MACA. They haven't approved yet, but you approve today, then wait for the approval. And after that, then we will wrap this up and send the final copies. I want to take this opportunity to thank you, Council, Administration, and Jim and Cassandra, and staff for the support you rendered the audit process. Thank you very much.
Mayor Ferguson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, William. Your team who's come down is always very professional and thorough and goes, and I like working with you guys, and you ask some really good questions when you're here, and I'm glad to hear that you work well with staff that comes down. I'm glad that we've got a clean financial statements and that we're in got things in reserve for future planning, and that it looks that we're in a very safe and prudent fiscal planning. Thanks, go team.
Any other comments, questions for the auditor? Okay, seeing is Councillor Karashak?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, then that'll conclude our first delegation. Thank you, William. We really appreciate your time this evening. And
Thank you very much.
Could be all the way.
Okay. I guess we're ready to move on to the second delegation. Our second delegation is Portsmouth Slope Stability 2026 update to be presented by Ray Roadland of WSP. The floor is yours.
Thanks so much. I'll share my screen here. Let me know when you guys can see it on your end.
Yeah.
Yep.
Wonderful. So yeah, I'm happy to present to you guys on behalf of WSP. I've got a bit of a slide deck that we'll run through here. This is an iconic photograph of the 1968 landslide in Portsmouth, and we'll talk about that shortly here. So a bit of an outline of what we were planning to talk about today. We'll do a brief round of introductions of the other folks that are joining me from WSP on the call. Talk a little bit about the problem and the size of the problem. Talk about some of the challenges involved with addressing the problem and a risk-based approach. And then we'll go into some updates since 2022. 2022 was the last time I had the opportunity to address council and give an update. Talk about some key findings, path forward, and I've delegated at the end questions and discussion, but if there's anything you'd like to ask as I'm presenting, please feel free to jump in. Just raise your hand. So a bit of an introduction. Perhaps I'll introduce the company first. Some of you may or may not know the company WSP. They have been around in Canada since the 1950s. They haven't been that prominent in the West until maybe 10 years ago. And there's a lot of companies that were part of WSP that were bought out in one way or another. You may recognize some of these other companies down below. I myself, I'm a legacy AMEC employee. Actually, all three of us on the call today are legacy AMEC company people that came into AMEC Foster Wheeler. So just a bit of brand recognition there, perhaps. So I'll introduce the team here on the call. I'll start with Ed McRoberts. He's there on camera, you can see him. He's been up in the Northwest Territories, been looking at landslides and permafrost since before I was born. He's got more than 50 years experience there. He's a fellow with the company. Next we've got James Morgan. You can see him there as well. He's a principal, senior principal with the company. He's also done extensive landslide work in Alberta and the prairies. And then here's myself, Blake Broadland. I've got about 15 years experience. Most of that's been in the north, which has been great. My next slide gives a bit of an overview, and I'll maybe introduce it to the way that I got involved in WSP. We were called Wood at the time, but how we got involved in this project is back in 2019, there was a request for proposal that came from the town, and that request for proposal was to deal with the whole 4.5 kilometers that we sort of see on the screen here along the riverbank. The idea with the RFP was that there was a portion here from the 1968 landslide that had been regraded, and the comment was that this has been relatively stable and relatively successful. We'd like to apply that same solution to the entire slope. And so we got involved and looking at the scale of that problem, the length 4.5 kilometers, and the amount of soil that you'd have to move to regrade to an appropriate angle, the infrastructure that would be impacted, the trees that would be impacted. It was an enormous problem. And so we started looking into other details and other aspects of this. You can see as we looked into it, we identified there were some other legacy landslides in the area, not just the 1968 one, 1937. There's 1939, 1961, and there's these even older ones. I don't know exactly where those were, but 1908 and 1933. And interestingly enough, a lot of the noted and cataloged landslides are in this area, just downstream of the rapids here. Is that a coincidence? Probably not. My understanding is the town was founded because of this rapid and the 3 rapids upstream, and it was a portage. And interestingly enough, I'll come back to the slide, but I'll just flip to here. Got the town of Fort Smith with the rapids of the Drowned, and then 3 rapids upstream. And at all 3 of these rapids, you sort of see the river take a similar turn. And you can also see a similar bite out of the riverbank at each of the rapids. And so it appears that a similar situation is taking place in the town of Fort Smith, leading to some of this instability. And so today, if you came to us and you said, you know, is this a great place to build a community? We'd look at this and we said, no, let's look at another location perhaps. So this map helps to also show sort of the scale of what is going on here. It's not a small problem. So if I go back to this slide, when we started looking into this in more detail, we're not the first company, WSP. There's been studies taking place in Fort Smith for literally decades. And one of the early studies that took place was by Clone in 1978. And they've identified this setback line, this orange line. I hope you can see it. I kind of wish I'd made it a little bit bigger to see. But this setback line, for the most part, the town and infrastructure is on the upslope side, further from the river. And that's sort of a safe setback line. If you're inside of that between the river, there's more chance of something moving, the ground moving, there's more safety concern, there's risk to infrastructure. And so when we started looking at this with the town, we identified a couple of items that were inside that orange line and that were considered by the town to be key infrastructure items. So that's the water intake structure and pipeline right here. It's the water outfall from the lagoon here. And it's the cemetery in the arena. These are all important parts, and the red line also, maybe we'll talk about that in a moment, it's with a trace of the headscarp along this slide. So I'll go to my next slide here, which is a section through a portion of the slope. Just to explain a few more of the challenges in addition to the length of this problem. So like I mentioned, we've got the Slave River at the toe, actively, constantly eroding, washing away parts of that slope. We've got the bedrock, it's near the river level. Those are the rapids that you see in the river. This section is quite old, and at the time when they drilled it, these are boreholes that were drilled in the ground. They encountered permafrost in parts of the slope, may or may not be there today, and they even installed some ground movement indicators, and they detected how deep this thing was moving at that time. So you can see that it's about 20 meters deep. It's a deep landslide. It's really long. They also identified shallow groundwater. There's some problematic soils, and of course this slope is very high. There's a lot of challenges and contributing factors to making this a very difficult problem to solve. Like I mentioned, river erosion, that's an ongoing thing happening at the toe of the slope. We're losing soil every year as there's a high river event in the spring, freshet, and throughout the year we're getting erosion. One of our river resources people looked at this early in 2019 when we got to work, and they were talking about having 2-meter type diameter riprap, that's rock placed along the river to prevent that erosion. And again, it's just such a problematic and monumental issue to source 2-meter, probably granite bedrock. There's no quarry that's nearby. You'd have to bring that in from somewhere else. The cost is astronomical to try to address all 4.5 kilometers. In addition, as I mentioned, there's some poor soil conditions that make things challenging. We've got potential permafrost, high groundwater table as well. A lot of contributing factors to making this challenge. The point I want to underscore is that this is a large problem, and to solve it is there's a significant cost associated with it. It's not something you can necessarily go and do small band-aid type solutions along. You either fix the entire thing or you don't. These issues, the river erosion, the soil conditions, potential permafrost, high ground, these all still exist today. They existed in 1968 when that big landslide happened. They still exist today.
They probably existed hundreds of years ago. It's not new. It's been going on back to the people you were honoring at the start. In those days, of course, they were a lot more nimble than their feet. But and that river is just chewing away at it, including the back eddies you'll get in a big rapid like that. Even if that slope has been flat, it'll go again eventually as the bow gets eroded out and you lose support from the rest of the slope. Sorry.
Oh, that's great.
I just thought I'd.
So because of these significant challenges, what we've done since 2019 is a risk-based approach with the monitoring. And what is a risk-based approach? I'm glad you asked. So it's sort of a three-pronged approach in this case. So I mentioned that setback line at the very beginning. So adhering to that setback line, and for the most part, the town has actively done that. We don't see key infrastructure, aside from those couple of examples we talked about. Most of the infrastructure is set back from that line. Contingency planning as well, in the event that the parts or a significant part of the landslide were to reactivate, what would be the next step? Say the water intake pipeline was damaged. What would we do? What's the contingency planning? And then the third part of it is what WSP we've been doing with our geohazard monitoring program. And so since 2019, our program has consisted of visual inspections. We've been using a tool called LiDAR, light detection and ranging. We've basically flown a drone over the town and mapped the surface. I'll show you some examples of that. And then we've also been doing some survey pin work. Even in the early work as well, we had some, through the government of the Northwest Territories, we had some satellite data that we looked at even too.
The one thing that perhaps was missing from that slide is safety. As I'm sure the town knows, there was a fatality in the 1968 landslide. And I'm reading the history of it. You know, it took quite a while before the body was recovered. Certainly monitoring on things like the arena. That failure that happened is, by all reports, very quick. You know, you could be in bed, you see the bed moving, and you just don't get out. It's that fast. So certainly, places where folks congregate and might not be too absorbed of cracks in the ground and stuff, probably justify it, but a safety thing on the arena, for example, give you some warning. It's another form of monitoring. I got a job we're looking at in the town of Whitehorse right now. If any of you know Whitehorse, along the Robert Service Drive there, to the east town where the railroad used to be. There's monitoring going on there because bits of the hillside come down and very quickly in the order of seconds. So there's monitoring. So there's other monitoring going on in terms of stability, but the safety issue is pretty important.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Those slides I just mentioned, I would say those are some of the most important slides in the deck, just to sort of explain the problem and some of the challenges with it. So the next few slides talk about what we've done since the last presentation to council. Maybe I'll go through this quickly in the sense of time here. On an annual basis, we've been using some funding from GNWT. I think I saw slope monitoring as one of the line items in the previous presentation there with financial update. So we've been using some of that money, and we've been doing, like I mentioned, the visual slope inspections. We installed pins in 2022, the LiDAR and the interpretation. We've sort of looked at these key areas, those three key areas I talked about at the beginning. We've talked about what an instrumentation program could look like. We've given some high-level costs for what an instrumentation program might look like. 2023, we did the inspection again. We even looked at Geysers Canal at the same time. We received approval for an additional 3 years of funding as part of the Climate Change Preparedness in the North program. There was no inspection that fall because of the wildfire threat and some changes in the town. And then similar in 2024, we didn't get quick traction. So thankfully, we've been able to take that money and push it out a few years here. So in 2025, we did the visual inspection, we did the ground pin survey, and we did the LiDAR and the interpretation. And just last month, we issued a report to the town documenting the findings of 2025. So this is that same figure I showed at the beginning. Nothing new really here, just to reorientate you. I'm going to show you on the next slide the LiDAR, and it's in the same location. So you'll see that red line that I previously had traced as the headscarp that matches quite nicely with the LiDAR, which is essentially a topographic surface. So this is the landslide here, the river is down here, and there's the flat at the top. And you can really see how extensive this slide is. It's all along that 4.5 kilometers. Even though the area that historically has seen the most movement is through here, and you can see where the regrading work has taken place, where you don't see that dramatic headscarp. You see it sort of end there, you see it end there, and the regrading work that's taken place in between. And I'll show you on the next couple of slides how we've seen activity sort of down here at the toe along the river and some of the work that we've done. So that's this next slide here. What we've done is done a LiDAR change detection, LCD, and we're basically taking 2 sets of LiDAR data and comparing them. And so more red or more blue means more change, sort of either way. Blue is ground going down, red is ground moving up. In some cases, you get the impression of an elevation gain just because of the shape of the ground and if it's moving horizontally and not just up and down. So you might see that in a few places. And you need to look at this with a critical eye. There are places like the arena that show as blue. This is not blue. So there is no change. I think in the one series, the arena is shown in the LiDAR set, and the second series it's not shown. So you need to really consider this data with a critical eye. So my next slide zooms in at the toe here, showing here's that road down to the boat launch. The cemetery is just up here, and some of these deep blues and deep reds are where we're seeing a lot of change. And so it's right along the river here. And my scale is maybe a little bit small, but you can see that's about a 50-meter bite of ground that's moving between the river and the uplands, and similarly over here. This is the raw data. And as an example, you can see here there's a dark feature. That's actually a crack in the ground in 2020. And you don't see anything here, but in the 2025, you do see this crack that's developed. There's another example in 2020 where you see a bit of a crack, and it's more extensive in 2025. So these are just examples of what we're looking for when we apply the LiDAR data and do the change detection on it. And of course, we don't take that data just at face value. We're also doing visual inspections. We're going out there. So these are actual photos from this year of those 2 exact spots I just showed you, where we see those cracks developing. They're pretty significant on that screen at that scale. It might not seem like it's that big, but these are large features. You've got trees going over. You've got exposed soil. I'm sure anybody that's walked their dog or gone for a leisurely walk on the slope knows all about this, but it's a very large scale and active moving, particularly in those 2 spots, one of which is downslope of the cemetery, which was identified as a key area by the town. So just sort of coming to the close here, some of the key findings, the risk-based approach appears to be working with adhering to the setback line. That's a really important one in the name of safety, and some of the contingency planning that we understand is taking place or could be refreshed as needed, and supplemented by the monitoring that we're doing, seems to be working. I want to highlight that the regular monitoring that we are doing, it's visual, it's of the surface. As I showed in that section, this is a deep landslide. The movement is in that section I showed you, it was measured as being 20 meters deep. there's places that could be even deeper. The visual surface monitoring is pretty good, but it's not the analogy would be, say, a Cadillac. It's not the Cadillac. To have some ground instrumentation that's including underground would give more detail and more of a handle on the movement rates, and also more frequent as well. What we're doing right now is on an annual basis. As I showed,
To be clear, all I have to do is tell you which pit was going to fail next. That's all it's going to tell you. If you keep doing this, it will happen. And we already see that LiDAR is amazing stuff for an old geezer like me. I've been working since 1970. The accuracy that you get out of this LiDAR that tells you what these slopes are doing is amazing for someone like me. These here guys, they're using it all the time now. It's great. But it's telling you that these slopes are going to keep moving. And you can try and do a little bit of fixing up here and there. It's just buying a couple of decades, which might be, okay, a couple of decades is worth something, but in the longer term, eventually, the facilities you've got will be replaced. And I must say, with all humility, the issue with the cemetery is particularly vexing for you. You can understand that. When my colleague says easy, he means affordable.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's a challenging slope, a lot of technically complex issues, as well as perhaps some environmental issues. If you start looking at clearing trees, replacing rocks in the river, there is no easy solution, unfortunately, for this landslide to stop it. Talked a little bit about this one already, and we've got the annual, and it's only surface. The ongoing monitoring that we're doing, it's supporting the risk-based approach, and to have some additional instrumentation in those key areas would be great. And that sort of ties in with this next slide here. And again, it's so well complemented to the financial update that you guys just had. This is a great situation where we have worked with the town. We applied for this climate change preparedness in the North program, and we secured some funding that's paying our bill. And I understand there's a portion for the town as well. So we've completed the work for this past fiscal year. We've got 2 more fiscal years worth of funding ahead of us. We've also in the past, this is 2021, we helped apply for another grant. To my knowledge, it wasn't successful, but we're happy to help the town if you want to try to apply again. And that's the end of the presentation. We're happy to take any questions if there are any.
I just should also say, at least in my opinion, this is not a climate change problem. It's great that you can get some money because of a climate change program from the government. This has been happening long before climate change started to be a popular topic of discussion. When the Spade Post and a couple of houses went into the river in 1909, that nothing to do with climate change. It's the erosion of the river. And it's also interesting that when you go up to each of those rapids, this wider area that's always to the west, we've some interesting speculations in the house as to why that is. It's probably the ground still rebounding from all the ice that was on it back 10,000, 1,000 years ago.
Okay, questions, Deputy Mayor?
I've got a geography background, so I get the fact that this has been long going on. But for me, looking at this as a town councillor, when I see the orange line called appropriate setback line, there's a couple of questions I have around that. One is, how would you explain that to a layperson? And B, are you advising that we think about this in the zoning and development of our community? Because we have a number of houses already on the wrong side of that line.
I would say that the way.
I'm right on it, I'm right on the line this side, you're right on the line the other side, so I don't.
The way I'd explain it to someone in my family would be, look, you're probably okay for the near future, maybe a couple of decades. But you can't, especially if you're closer to the bank. You start seeing any cracks in your yard, get out of there. And it obviously is an issue for value of property. But, you know what? It's the same, you see the city of Edmonton, there's various spots in the city of Edmonton, people have lost their properties because they wanted to build at the top of the bank on the North Saskatchewan River, and their houses are halfway down the slope. Not only that, they have to pay money to get rid of the house. Because the city makes them do that, even though they approved the permit to build there in the first place, which was ridiculous. Anyways, that orange line is a line where, behind which, you know, things are okay for quite a while, maybe a century, that kind of time frame. But something very close to the bank. The best thing you could do with your monitoring money is safety monitoring for the people in the homes. Because trying to stop this, excuse me, to stop this slope failure is the historical accident that's in a way that the town is there, because it was an obvious place to stop if you're portaging, you're trying to go south of the Slave, and it was a good place to stop. It's also probably a really good place to fish in the old days with those big back eddies. And I used to go fishing in there downstream of the dam in Whitehorse when I was a teenager. And, you know, it was a great place to catch fish because they're sort of getting their breath literally before they start going up further. So that's why the community got started. So I don't know if I really answered your question very well, but
Yeah, I believe the town has adopted this in a sense too. I think it's part of your land planning, community planning document. I looked into some things a few years ago and I did see this shown on a bunch of maps. I think it's designated as environmental reserve, I think is what you guys call
I just don't think it goes as far back as this line in some places.
It's possible.
it's just the erosion part of this ramp at the back edge you get is very substantial. I mean, I had never been in the town, and I've never seen, or I've been in other rapids. And the place for lacustrine material that's been deposited at the top of the bedrock here, it all came out of the melting glacier ice, and it's very loose soil. Plays the sands, or you can trigger what's called static liquefaction in it. Failures can be very rapid.
Yeah, sorry, this is Adam McNabb. I just wanted to say thank you, Blake, for all your hard work. I've enjoyed working with you and your team. Just really quickly for clarification to Deputy Mayor Keyser, we do have this adopted in our zoning bylaw, but I want to confirm, I think what you're presenting is a recommendation from back in 1978. Does that line still necessarily align with what you would recommend? Or is that just there for historic information about a previous recommendation?
I don't know, I mean, my view is it's not a bad line. Well, what they really done is said, okay, how far could this go back in the reasonably near future? And I don't mean 10 years or 20 years, I mean, longer term things like that, generations. And if you want, let's put it this way, putting capital into trying to stop that slope from filling, it would be cheaper to use the capital to relocate critical infrastructure. infrastructure.
Yeah, Adam, to your question, the 19, we presented, it's a historical line. We haven't gone and done any specific modeling to confirm or refute that orange line. We're just presenting it here. Like Ed says, seems reasonable.
Quite a reasonable line, having been involved in setbacks, and communities, quite a few of them over the years, yeah.
Yeah, like there may be it may be conservative, but how conservative, we haven't looked into detail, we wouldn't be able to tell you that.
No, I appreciate that. I think that just on the eastern half of the line, as it kind of moves to an east-west trajectory, that's where the concern lies, because there's some deviation from our existing zoning bylaw and definitely impacts residential homes in that area. So I just wanted to clarify that that was a pre-existing recommendation from the 70s and not your current assessment.
Yeah, that's not our current proposal. That's a legacy clone 1978 line.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Bedwell?
But I don't think we come up with something that was substantively different. Quite a reasonable.
Yeah, there's different risk profiles that you'd be willing to accept. Like Ed mentioned, like you wouldn't put a hospital north of that orange line, but like a residential development, there's maybe less, maybe you're willing to accept more risk with a residential development versus a 10-story hospital, right?
For a women's prison.
Yeah, or yeah, not saying that we attract a mobile home park, you know, within a certain amount of, so you can come in there and pull everything out very quickly. But investing capital, personal capital or public capital, you know, should be discouraged.
Councillor Bedwell?
Yeah, so while growing up, I've always, like, since the landslide, all I've heard about was the red zone. Is that orange line that you're talking about, or is that the actual red line that's closer to the slope?
The red line is where you would fall over if you went to that crest.
Yeah, because, like, you know, people are saying, well, that's in the red, in the red zone. Where's the red zone?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what that red zone term is relating to. I personally drew this red line here, so I don't think it's related to that. My suspicion is the red zone is between the river and this orange line, but that's speculation. I don't know who's calling it the red zone or what they mean.
In our zoning plan.
Yeah, if I could just clarify really quickly, that's actually the environmental slide zone identified in our zoning bylaw. So the zoning bylaw has a development exclusion zone, which does largely align with that orange line other than that eastern section.
The red line is where flat ground is no longer flat. It's the head, it's where is the expression of the landslide in that area up to the reasonably flat area that the town's sitting on. It's where you'd fall over with your next step.
Why would?
Okay, Councillor Cox?
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for this report. I've been waiting for it for a few years. I guess, any suggestions in terms of next steps and you know, I think of our high risk area. I walk that red line every day, pretty much, but I'm not worried about myself as one person. But in terms of higher risk areas, the water intake and the cemetery and the arena, how do we quantify that risk and the timelines of that risk to kind of come up with a better plan?
When do we move this up?
Well, the first thing you have to think about is the safety of individual people. And make sure that everyone is aware, you know, if they're living in homes that are between that, the further back you are from the head start, the safer you are. But what that gradation is depends on how deep seated the next landslide is, which depends on how long it hangs in there before it then fails. We don't have a good plan of what the ground looked like, or at least I don't think I've seen one between the 68 landslide. What was it? How much did the 68 landslide actually retrogress by? By retrogress, I mean, there was a crest, and then there was a landslide, and there was several homes that just went down the hill. So obviously that was what, 30 meters maybe? The kind of lot size that might have been there, 20 meters, maybe more like maybe 100 feet, I think. So, you know, the further back you are, the better, the safer. But when you certainly, I think, when people are in the arena, I think having some kind of safety device, the triggering thing that if the ground is starting to move on the riverside, there's an alarm, people, and you have to wake up and think, well, what's going on, right? Why did this alarm go up? That is used in other parts of the world when landslides are a threat. Water intake, well, you know, I don't know how much money it would take to actually stabilize that slope in the immediate vicinity of the water intake. But you'd have to go down there and put in riprap, or big riprap. I mean, riprap, by the way, is a term we use of, like, you know, grapples and granular material to stop erosion of running water. But you need big riprap, like the kind of thing you're going to have to go get a haul truck from Sunport to start moving it, not your local truck. And where you're going to get, probably you'd have to go well across the river to where the shield rock is exposed to develop quarry. Just getting that material, developing a pit, and blasting rock, loading it out and getting it down there. It costs an awful lot of money. It'd be cheaper to relocate the water intake. You know?
I have a question
As I
related
said-
to the water intake structure. Like looking at your pictures here on the LiDAR and the LC, the data, it doesn't look like, or it looks to me like less movement compared to things going down along the toe of after the rapids. Is that correct? Or how
Yeah,
much
that's
movement have
generally-
you seen there?
Generally right, that area that I zoomed in on here, this is where we're seeing the most change through here. There is some change by the water intake, but most of the change is located here. And maybe I'll speak a little bit to that earlier question too about the rest. What we're doing right now is we're getting this LiDAR data and the visual inspections about once a year. And so we've got once a year snapshot that may or may not be appropriate. We can ring the alarm bell sort of once a year as our view into this. If something happens within that 1 year period between those 364 days, we don't have eyes on it right now. And so that's sort of where, if we were to install some geotechnical instrumentation in the ground, we could hook that up to a cell phone service and have daily data coming in from this. When we tried to get that big grant back in 2021, that's what we tried to do. We tried to drill some boreholes and install some instrumentation that would give us literally daily readings on, is it moving, is it not moving, and then you could do something about it. Right now we have once a year. Is there a big change? Yes or no? And so there's a bit of a gap in monitoring right now. So I don't want you to look at what we're doing and have a wonderful sense of security. You also need to consider that setback line. You also need to consider contingency planning.
Do you know if there's funding available, like you had applied on that larger grant application for some more permanent slope stabilization sensors?
Yeah, we applied for this. To my knowledge, it wasn't accepted. Is there other applications that, you know, collectively the town and WSP could go after? It's possible.
Okay, thanks.
But you're talking about a lot of money. And it
Yeah,
would be
when-
better to take a percentage of that money and relocate the water infrastructure. As
Yeah,
a, you know,
We had about $1 million is what we said to put a couple of instruments in, just at these sort of 3 locations.
yeah, I mean, none of this stuff is cheap anymore, and, I mean, what is the contingency? Your question about the fact that was a bit steeper and a little bit more stable there, well, one way of looking at it is the steepest bits around are the ones that are most likely to fail next. Because the ones that are have failed are the ones that were threatened, but the steeper ones still could go. But what is your contingency plan if that water intake failed?
Do we have one?
It'd be better to figure out the contingency plan, what you would have to execute, be prepared to execute it, get funding on an emergency basis, and which then would be more forthcoming. And we're not just talking strategy, and figure out how you would let people, you know, how would you bring in water in the meantime? From where, how many water trucks would you need? I'm just saying, that's what I'd be starting thinking about. As I said, the trickiest thing is the cemetery. And how the heck do you manage that
Deputy
in
Mayor?
the long term?
Just, if I could just ask, just because I can't get it out of my head, so I'll get it out, I can empty my head of it. And what you're talking about, when you keep talking riprap, is similar to what Tuktoyaktuk's done to try and keep the ocean out. They didn't use granite, they used big cement. Looks like jacks from the old Paul and Jack game, but big made cement. You're talking something similar to that, basically putting something big and solid down. They're holding back the Arctic Ocean, we're just trying to hold back the Slave River, but.
That's right.
Well, if
Something
you drive
big and
along the
solid that
highways-
isn't easily walked.
If you drive along the highways here and there, you'll see somewhere where there may be some culverts and there's a bit of bubbles and bigger, you know, sized bubbles, maybe some boulders the size of a watermelon kind of stuff, right? That's called riprap. That's there to prevent the water from the culvert when it's going through it. We're talking about stuff that's like 5 or 6 feet in diameter.
Yeah.
Because of the energy involved.
I'm just thinking Tuktoyaktuk was able to find money through some program, maybe we need to look at whatever they were looking at some point, something along that same line.
Yeah, it's the energy involved in you know, I mean, if you see pictures sometimes of T-walls in the Mediterranean where you see the big ferry coming in, there's all these huge blocks of material or tetrahedrons or whatever that are all being made out of concrete. They're huge, and that's because of the waves. That's the kind of scale you need. And you know, it could be done, but I suspect it would be hard to get funded.
All right, in the, keeping in mind, the time that we have a lot of additional business, I would, like to suggest that, our administration could, look at arranging a follow-up conversation regarding this, fairly in the near future.
Sounds great. I'm happy to be involved with the follow-up conversation.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, and you've got us all thinking quite seriously about the long-term future of our riverbank here, and we do appreciate you taking the time to present to us, Blake, and along with your colleagues.
Thanks so much for having us. Appreciate being here. Have a great day.
Good evening, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, trying to move our agenda along here. So item 4 on our agenda is the regular meeting of council for April 14th, 2025. Can I get a mover? Councilor Cox.
Move that the minutes of the regular meeting of April 14th, 2026 be adopted as presented.
Seconded. Deputy Mayor Keiser. Any question, comments, etc. regarding the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously. I'm assuming no hand up means you're not objecting, Mr. Councilor Karashek.
Technically, I think I would abstain because I wasn't at that meeting, so for me to judge the accuracy of the minutes would be difficult. So I'm not objecting, but I'm not voting in favor. I'm just abstaining.
Okay, so for record, one abstention. Okay, business arising from the minutes. Seeing none, we'll move on to the next item. Declaration of financial interest. I don't believe anybody filed anything, so we can move on. Item 7, administration. Community services, director's report. I'm assuming the director will.
Yes, absolutely. I'd pass over to the Director of Community Services. Thank you. High-level report of March for Community Services. We had a lot of events going on in the community. Snowboarding territorials was successfully held. We had the Loppet as well. We had the 2026 Frolics this year that Recreation and Community Services staff supported. Some of that support looked like the youth dance being held at Rec as well as bingo. Our ETDO was a fabulous MC at multiple events. Our library even held some quiet, frolicking programming, which was very wonderful to see. We hosted the Joel Tetso tournament as well. 10 teams were involved in that. That was really awesome. We did see the pool closure as well as day 1 of reopening occur. So kind of some work that got done in that meantime was some of our pumps, some of our plumbing, some electrical work, administrative work got done as well. Inventories were done, SOP, SOGs were updated, so that was a good time to catch up on that. Childcare is currently recruiting. They were very creative with their programming in March as it was very cold, so huge shout out to the childcare team for getting creative. And then other than that, just a note of business that to look for this month. Going into May, on May 5th, we do have the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women's March happening. So just so we're aware of that, Rec will be supporting that. It starts at 5:30 on May 5th and we'll go from Salt River First Nation Conference Center down to Uncle Gabe's via McDougall for your information. Thank you.
Any questions for the Director of Community Services? Councilor Heaton.
Sure. Thank you. Great team. Lots of things were happening. Just some very, very minor. Something funky is happening with the font on your reporting. Yeah. So I don't know what the font is, but something's happening. Noted. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Hey, Councilor Bates.
Thank you. So I apologize for asking a question without setting it ahead of time, but just had some parents ask me today. First off, great that the pool's back open. I know my kids have been enjoying it, but one thing they didn't really enjoy was in the past was the swimming lessons. So just wondering if there's a plan to get back into offering those. Director.
Thank you for your question. Yes, we are in the middle of getting that actioned. We're in the middle of getting staff trained for that. That'll be coming in coming weeks, so we're hopeful for a summer rollout. That is the goal. But I can come next month as well with a further update on that progress.
Right on. Thank you.
Any further questions? Oh, no, okay, what's the question? Seeing none, we do have a couple of briefing notes related to community services. First briefing note is Fireweed Festival consolidated request. Could I have somebody move? Mayor. sorry.
Sure, I'll move that council approve the provisions of municipal equipment, personnel, and financial assistance of $5,000 in accordance with the applicable policies to support Fireweed Festival NT 2026.
Seconder, Councillor Cox. Any questions? Mayor Ferguson.
Thank you. It's just a point of clarification. I didn't think that the town of Fort Smith does porta potties, and I know that's in their ask for portable washrooms. Are we paying them? Are we donating the cost for porta potties in this briefing note? Or are we, like, what is the ask when it says portable washrooms? Thanks.
Director.
Yep, so we acknowledge that we might not have the ability to provide them, but we would initiate touching base with the contractor to get those provided. That would be our in-kind.
It's just the facilitation of the conversation?
To provide them, to get them provided.
So we're gonna pay for them? That's what I,
Okay.
I just needed to know, because then that's not quite right for the, right, for money. If it's 5,000 plus, then, because the other things we do, we have within our power, right? But if we're contracting out porta potties or something like that, that's an additional cost.
It was my understanding it would be in kind, but I will double check and bring that information.
Any further questions regarding the briefing note?
Well, do we need that clarification of money first before we move on this? Can we, like, wouldn't we need to know that value? Because how many and for what amount?
SAO, do you have a number?
Absolutely. I do know that as far as the number is required, that's to do with the anticipated size of the crowd. There is a prescribed number that should be available per the number of people in attendance. So that's more of a prescriptive matter. And if the cost of providing the porta potties does not comfortably fall within the $5,000 that has been noted, I am confident that we could provide an offset in other ways. I know that in planning Fireweed and in years past, the town has been very proactive in being supportive and providing a lot of help to that event. So I feel confident that we would be able to facilitate both aspects of this ask for the 5K as well as the additional cost of the porta potties. But again, per the Director of Community Services, I do think that the hope is that the cost will be only partially material. Very, very small is the hope. The idea being that Fireweed isn't unfamiliar to the vendor that we would be seeking and approaching, and hopefully they would be willing to work with us to find a fee that was more approachable for the event. So I feel, from my perspective, I feel confident in proceeding with this. We certainly wouldn't act in any way that was irrational with regard to the spending of the money, and if it would be reassurance to the members of council, we can certainly reflect the financial outcomes and bottom line at next convention.
Councillor Cox.
Yeah, just a clarification, because I just reading through this bullet list, the last one says monetary contribution, which I read as cash or whatever equivalent of 5,000 plus then all the other in-kind stuff. So this is actually, not adding it up quickly in my head, but 7 to 8,000 is what I'd be guessing. So is that the case, or is it all the in-kind stuff plus the balance up to $5,000?
SAO or Director?
Yep, thank you so much. Yes, so all of the provision of the extra pieces, staffing assistance, municipal equipment, things like that, they are in addition to the cash ask of the $5,000, is my understanding. However, my understanding is also that the festival is quite a big event in town and would involve the Department of Community Services regardless. With the introduction of this kind of agreement and our providing our published support, it lends itself to financial tracking on our end and our ability then to address through potential grant opportunities that will appear throughout the year, or in the address of upcoming quarterly reviews of budgeting for community services, and similar for us to make adjustments as and when. Obviously, I recognize that this may seem like a kind of a large request, but like I said, my understanding is that the festival is quite a big event in town, and that it does attract quite a bit of tourism from neighboring communities and things. So I don't know that this ask would necessarily affect the overall success of the festival, and I don't know that the community would necessarily experience any setback as a result of the contribution in full.
Al's got his hand up. Al's waving.
Oh, Councilor Kaczmarek.
I'm all in favor of supporting the festival, but I'm uncomfortable with the way the motion is currently worded. We have in past practice listed in-kind donations with a monetary value attached, because then that money gets transferred out of our donation line item into those separate agencies or departments within the town. So just to say 5,000, and then we could contract out for extra porta potties, and then they're in kind, I would much rather vote on a motion that is a little bit more detailed. This to me just seems a little bit too airy-fairy for me to support. I do supporting the festival, but I don't think this motion is worded adequately enough for me to support it this time.
Councilor Penwell.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too, but I don't know if we wanna table this and have them come back with a new ask or whatever, because what I see here is they're asking for $5,000, and then maybe they can come back and explain what it is more that they need, and if it's gonna cost more on our end. But just having something like that is just too open.
SAO.
Thank you. If it would, as another mechanism of reassurance to council, if it would be a more overt and approachable pursuit of this funding to invite representatives from Fireweek to attend as delegates in a future meeting, that is obviously something else that we could put on the schedule as well, if that would help to identify exactly what it is that they need and what it is that they had envisioned with this request.
Personally, I don't think we need delegation. I just think we just need this written out in a way that's itemized, right? So in more clear fashion. I think we're all here wanting to support the festival, right? And I hear your reassurances that you don't feel like it would go over much, but I just do feel like our due diligence means that we need to check those numbers.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the concern, and I think that respectfully we will revisit this at next convention. Thank you so much.
Do you want a motion to table this?
I was about to say.
Okay.
Mayor Ferguson.
Well, I moved this. Would you like me to motion to table it?
Well, somebody has to motion.
I'll motion to table this.
Thank you. Seconder,
I'll second
Councillor
it.
Tucky. Okay, moving on our agenda here. Our second briefing note is Fireweed Festival Riverside Campground Overflow Requests. Could I have somebody move? Councillor Bates.
I move that council approve the temporary use and designation of Riverside Park as overflow camping for Fireweed Festival NT 2026, subject to compliance with all applicable municipal and territorial regulations to support increased visitation and to ensure safe, organized accommodation of festival attendees.
Seconded, Mayor Ferguson. Comments, questions? Mayor Ferguson.
I'm super excited to see that whole area be taken over by campers and the community filled with people. I'm very excited for this. Hopefully this is gonna set the bar for other large scale events to happen in our community, because then we'll have the framework right there for them to come. Woohoo!
Deputy Mayor Kaiser.
Sure enthusiasm, but, no, I just, it's a party. It's a great party. It's a party that I think will be great for the community. It's also a residential neighborhood. A whole bunch of people camping in the Ball Diamond right around a bunch of houses, people who live there year round. I just want to ensure that, yes, if we do this, there's going to be security, or there's going to be, the campground is you have a campground host. Comes around and tells you what to do. Is there going to be a campground host? Is it going to be structured? I was looking through it. I think there's some of that there, but I want to make sure that, the local residents aren't, around the Ball Diamond don't have to become the campground host, or the people going in asking them to not be partying and screaming at 3 in the morning, or whatever else is happening that might occur. It's a neighborhood first, then it's a party place second.
Councillor Cox.
Thanks, yeah, I agree with Mike, it's certainly a great idea, and
it is.
Probably would have been a boon last year. I guess my question was, does Protective Services have any concerns with it? And yeah, I'd certainly like to see a little bit more of a plan in terms of, who's gonna, babysit's not the right word, but there definitely is probably a need, and probably this is gonna be a learning curve for us, and it could go well or could not go well and ruin it for future years. So it'd be nice to see some kind of control or protections in place to make sure it works. I don't know if we have thoughts on that.
SAO.
Thank you so much. Regardless of it being, festival time, anyone who is choosing to set up their camp in this area, the existing bylaws are still in effect. There is a noise consideration in the bylaws. There are rules regarding, debris and abuse of the property and things like that. So while it is the responsibility of the festival to ensure that they are compliant with all policies and bylaws existing as they'll be operating within the town and under and using town facilities and things. So upon reflection of a past motion to this end, the town will be reflecting that they are responsible for maintaining all good standing with regard to any bylaws or policies that exist. They need to ensure that their campground is manned, like you say, and would likely be engaging with us to a far greater degree as the festival grows closer, to ensure that they are meeting all requirements and are establishing a good first year for this new expansion into this novel campground availability.
Councillor Tucky, and then I believe Director McNabb has it.
Well, I'm just wondering if there's any outside policies that we have to follow in terms of keeping the community safe. And if we're obligated to provide security because it's our property, if we grant these people the use of it, are we obligated to provide the security? I noticed that when we were on evacuation, that when there were camps set up for people who were evacuating, camps were provided with security. it was a must, they had to do that. So how would this be any different if we use town property to do this? I mean, I totally support the festival, but we have to look at what we are responsible for too. And is there insurances involved?
SAO, and then Director McNabb.
So sorry, Director McNabb. The festival would be a little bit of a different circumstance to an evacuation effort or any kind of wildfire considerations, as that would have been a mechanism that would have been perpetrated on the part of the town and would have been pursued on the part of the town, whereas this is a festival that is in the hands of a different group who has requested use of the area. So in their using it, the expectation is that in the agreement for their use, they would align with the existing bylaws, policies, practices that would be required. I believe a similar expectation for conduct exists in our MOU with the snowboarders. So this wouldn't be a novel expectation on the part of a group utilizing town equipment and property. We have an expectation that they will take care of the land, the area, the facilities, any kind of installations that exist there, similar to existing agreements that we have with other groups.
Thank you. Director McNabb.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to speak to Carl's earlier question. I think Director House did a really good job of putting this together. It does outline concerns that I brought forward. She definitely reached out to me. And it does speak in the analysis to the requirement for following public safety, environmental concerns, and bylaw compliance. My concerns were primarily around emergency planning, access for fire apparatus, safe spacing, following fire bans, no open fires, propane fire pits only if we're going to allow them, depending on fire bans, things of that nature, and ensuring that we have first aid stations, some fire extinguishers on site, those kinds of things, which follow actually the fire code. Beyond that, if I may just put in a suggestion, if it makes council feel a bit more comfortable with this motion, perhaps some wording could be included that this will be subject to providing on-site security during and throughout the event and showing proof of some sort of insurance, liability insurance on behalf of Fireweed Festival to support this. Just if that is something that council wants to consider, I think that's reasonable. Beyond that, I believe that this does cover the requirement for bylaw compliance, environmental concerns, public safety. I've put forward all of my concerns as far as that happens.
Mayor Ferguson.
Thanks. That suggestion you just brought up, did you already sign an agreement with them? Maybe that could just be added to that agreement, right? That they have to carry third party liability. And what was the other suggestion? Oh, it said the person, a security person.
Director Lauren.
Well, thank you. The conversations that I had between festival organizers, it wasn't reflected, which going forward I will reflect that more clearly and more detailed. I was assured that insurance was going to be provided, and I was assured that a campground personnel would be established. So I was reassured those points by festival organizers in my communications with them.
Deputy Mayor Kaiser.
Saying, well, just one final point, I guess, is somebody who ran a campground for a lot of years, your problems start at 3 o'clock in the morning and usually involve alcohol. So it's that availability to have that security in the evening. Is it going to be our bylaw officers? Is it going to be their security people? That's the type of discussion you need to have. I would argue to you, having run a campground for a long time, it's not a problem in the middle of the day, usually it's a problem in the middle of the night, and it usually involves alcohol. So you're dealing with people in an intoxicated state, so it involves law enforcement then at that point usually, or collaboration to get them to go to bed. That's been my experience. I can see it happening here, and that's what if you're working with them, that's what you're trying to address. Benefit of 30 years of park experience.
Councilor Bedwell.
Thank you. I have all the faith in the world with these organizers. They did an awesome job last year. They covered every base, and I mean, if we have more questions, then maybe they should come in and have a little presentation for us of what it is that, you know, that their vision of it, and that would be really good. And that way, we can have a more clear picture of what it is that they want. So, I think that having the security is good during the night, because you know, people wander at night, and just so that the campers are feeling secure. But other than that, I think it's going to be a good time for Fort Smith, and it'll bring in a lot of revenue.
So, were you wanting to speak, Council Karashak?
No, people have raised all the points that I was thinking of.
Okay. So, based on Councillor Benwell's suggestion, do we want to provide administration with directions to arrange for a delegation? Mayor Ferguson?
I think we can ask that for a later date, maybe on their whole thing, but on this matter, for this specific thing they're asking for, I don't think we need a delegation for that.
Okay. I'll just leave it up there. Okay. Deputy Mayor?
I'll just back up, I don't think we need to see them so much as they need to know what we expect from them. I don't have a problem understanding what they want, I know them all well too, and I love what they're doing, and I think it's great for the community and all of that kind of stuff. But they need to understand, despite their great expectations, their great plans, we have requirements, and that's what we need to convey to them. I think administration can handle that without a delegation here. They don't need to come drag themselves in and make a big presentation, just sing to the choir, we're already singing the same thing. We want them to do what they want to do, just do it in a way that's right.
Yeah, okay. I mean, sorry.
Yeah. Councillor Benwell.
I just want to make sure that, you know, we give them their support, because they are bringing revenue into our community.
Okay, last call for your questions. Seeing that, sorry, yes. I've got a blind spot.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to add the note that Director House has maintained quite a bit of comms, to my understanding, with the festival organizers, and my understanding as well is that those communications will be ongoing up to and including during the festival itself. And so if at a later date minds are changed and a delegation is something that this council would in fact like to see in attendance, we can absolutely arrange that at a later time as well.
Sure. Okay. Seeing no further questions, we have a motion on the table, briefing note for Fireweed Festival Riverside Camping Overflow request. All in favor? Passed unanimously. All right, continuing on through our agenda, the next item is briefing note, Tabitha Day Denisoline Treaty Day donation request. Can I have a mover?
Sure, I'll move the mayor and council approve the provision of requested town resources and support for Tabitha Denisoline Treaty Day event, subject to staff availability and operational considerations.
Second, Councillor Cox. Questions? Seeing none, all in favor of the passed unanimously. Okay, next item on our agenda is Municipal Services Director's Report. SAO.
Pass to the Director of Municipal Services.
Hey, Mayor, Council, you all have my report there, so I'm sure you've all read it. And then I have a couple of updates I'd like to share with you guys. So the repair at the water plant has been completed. It's been completed very successfully. We're just head for chlorinating the anthracite now. Once that's complete, we'll drain that and form the health board that we are going live again with that third filter. And our troubles with making water and staying late making water will be over. The late freeze up, I don't know if it made it better or worse. I think worse in every one of my departments, but having said that, I'm very happy that the filter 3 repair went well, because there was some parts of it that were scary, right? And then the timing with getting them all here was right at the end of that time. So that went very well. Around the garbage truck information pamphlets I handed out in my report. I said they were done. They're not done. They'll actually be handed out tomorrow morning, door to door, and that's due to the conversation I went back and forth in email until the final copy, the final draft for the information on the garbage truck and that program. We've also been doing a lot of work at the landfill, trying to get ready for bear season, because with the bear and the electric fence, that was a hot topic. We're trying to get the fence online for May 1st, however, there's like 4 feet of snow around it, so I've had bobcats and equipment working out there, trying to get the snow away from there, but it's also a very gruesome place to work. And we're hoping with that air and that sun hitting the area around the fence, we'll be able to clean it and turn it on live for May 1st, which is within our license. I'll give you updates if anything goes away from that, but I believe that we're going to be able to make that. We started working on it because we noticed early signs of bears, and then of course where do the bears go when there's straight snow all over the ground and nothing to eat, right? They only food, right? So yeah, we're quite aware of that, working out there, and as well as creating a nice area for the burned down houses around the community. So that these contractors start cleaning those areas up. We want to give them a specific place to use it. We have a plan for that as well, working very well with them. And then also getting some sand for our spring cover out there, because that also happens with this late thaw and this a mass amount of snow that we've been dealing with. It's been a struggle, but just to be aware of that, we are working diligently to find solutions for these problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Deputy Mayor.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. I think I sent a summary of our chats at the trade show. First off, it'd be fair to say 75 to 80% positive. Like, some people are actually enthusiastic. Not positive would not even be strong enough word. Well done, it's about time, oh my God, all of those kind of explanations. So really nice to see. There were some questions and concerns more than complaints. I did try to write them out in my note, and I just want to ask SAO, I guess, and the team, can we get those answers out to some of those people? They are people who are well known in the community who will influence others. And if we can get back to them with the simple answers, I hope, to some of their questions, if we need to talk to Yellowknife River to see how they handled it, involving people that have a hard time moving their garbage or other things, that if we can get them back answers, we might nip some of that in the bud before it potentially snowballs, for lack of a better term. But well done. The handouts that I mentioned in the note, I'll say it again, that Daniel Wilson brought, I like them so much I took them home with me, because I've been talking to other people as I need to, but really handy to explain what's happening. So at this point, it looks pretty good, but I'd just like to know we'd have some follow-up just so we can nip that in the bud.
SAO.
Thank you. I can confirm that we will in fact provide some information and response to the individuals who expressed concern. As the Director of Municipal Services mentioned, he has personnel who will be going door to door to ensure every household has the information that they need going into the change with the program. And his staff is well informed on this program, as you know, the personnel who will be actioning same. So there is an opportunity as well as they are moving through the community to also engage with people as they move through. And so anybody who has any remaining questions from that effort as well, we will also address.
Good. Director.
I just have one more thing. Sorry, I forgot to mention it in my notes, but the carts will actually be going out starting May 15th. So I'm just gonna let you guys know that now. Otherwise, it won't. My next meeting will be before then. So they should be landing. We have a team coming in to handle this door-to-door cart delivery. Cars should be at 15th. They'll start at 16th, 17th. And by that Tuesday, we should have our truck running and that going. So then the Friday pickup, we'll be finding that Friday. The Friday's going forward. I'm hoping the truck will land here next week for training and stuff like that. And if it does, I'll let you guys know if the emails with the SAO can last to go in. If you guys all want to come down and see it, it'd be wonderful too, just so you can see things, ask questions. We have that team on the ground as well, which can answer any questions, right? They'll be here as well, the professionals that provide these types of equipment to specialize in that. That's the Thank you.
Councillor Cox.
Thanks. Yeah, it's great. It's exciting news to see that new system coming along. And I have to say, I was very pleasantly surprised just reading through comments and the amount of positive feedback and even the change of heart in Hay River as well when they did their changeover. Now things are looking much better. I guess my one ask is, as the bins go out, whether it's mail drop or paper with the bins, just giving people ample time to figure out what to do with their old boxes. And in terms of Mike's concern about people with mobility issues or something, I'd just like to point out it's probably a great opportunity for some high school kids who want to make some money to go around in the morning and put out bins and put them away at the end of the day. There's, I remember in Newfoundland there was kids who started paying money to go up and down the street just chasing seagulls away from the garbage, and they were making good coin at it. And if their garbage got into, they would clean it up. So there's a good opportunity for kids to get out there and make a little bit of cash on the side too. That's it. Thanks.
Mayor Ferguson.
Thank you. Yeah, great job. I think this is a long time coming. I'm sure that Councillor Bates could speak to this. Is came directly from an advisory group's push, and it's been a long time coming. So great job for it actually coming out and becoming real. So right on. I'm just thinking I would love to come and see when the new truck came so I can see how it works, and I think that would be a great if you partnered with your ED, Daniel, to make a video or some sort of something catchy while that's going on, because then people can see it in action too, because that's what people like to see. So try and collab with that. Maybe I'll put the trash in the box and then you guys can take it away or whatever you need to do. I'll come help you with that.
Deputy Mayor.
Just running through the trade show comments, things I forgot to put in the note. I have one I'll send you as the note, but this one just for your communications for your people. One of the questions that came up quite often with people was, do I need to buy a second box? When do I need to buy a second box? How fast do I need to buy a second box? It seemed to come up a lot. And I forgot to put that in the note, but my response after doing enough of them kind of became, take one, see how it works for a while. And if you find that one's enough, you don't need to get a second one. If you find it isn't, they can always get one a few months down the road. I'm correct on that, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
If they find out that within the first week or two that they create more garbage than I can, we have ordered extra.
So that was, if your people are doing comms at all, that seemed to really help. They kind of went, oh, I never thought about it that way. Like there was like, I got to get two right now. And I'm like, why? Like give it a try, give one. So even my own wife asked that question, can we get two right away? And I just said, well, let's try one for 3 months. And then if it doesn't work out, I'll buy you a second one for your anniversary. You
better not buy more garbage cans for your anniversary.
What's a Fred Flintstone and anniversaries the day after garbage day? No, it's but no, I think just if it helps them, it didn't come right away in the talks, but after talking to 30 people, that was kind of where I ended up. If it helps your guys, use it.
Any further questions regarding the director's report? Okay, seeing none, we shall move on to briefing notes related to municipal services. Briefing note, landfill closure and expansion, tendering and bid acceptance. Right, get somebody, Councillor Cox.
I'll move the council approve the issuance of a landfill-focused tender for the closure of the current landfill cell, site expansion into a new cell, and installation of new fencing to restrict wildlife access.
Seconded by Councillor Tucky. Questions, comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously. Moving on, briefing note, asset management plan. Can I have a mover, please? Mayor Ferguson.
I move that council adopt the asset management plan as presented.
Seconded. Councillor Bate. Any questions? Mayor Ferguson.
These were Jim's final words as he left, is that we absolutely need this asset management plan. And if that was his final and last words to me, is it must go through, is what he said to me on his way out,
I'll
so.
run for council.
That's what he said, and so, I mean, it's not without, yes, of course, it's highly important, we do need something, we need this in place so that we can make good decisions and the group can make the best decisions possible, so highly supported.
Any further comments? Sorry, Councilor Cox.
Just a question, I think we accommodated for this in the budget, did we not? Just wondering why we need to approve the plan separately if it was budgeted for already.
SAO.
Fair question.
The approval is to accept the plan as written. It's not to approve funding to establish the plan. The funding was addressed during budget time, and this plan was worked on mostly in the 2025 fiscal year. And so this is now final draft. Provided council approves at this time, it will then be put into action in a novel asset management program.
And any further questions? Seeing none, let's make this so. All in favor?
For you, Jim.
Passed unanimously.
Retiring.
I hope he's watching that.
Briefing note, signing authority. Have somebody move. Councilor Ferguson.
Okay, I'll move
Mayor Ferguson.
that council approves signing authority records to be updated and remove James Jim Hood as May 3rd, 2026.
Seconded, Councilor May. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously.
We all say no, can we make them stay?
Okay.
I tried that.
Whoa.
Okay.
Okay, next, section is section 8, council business, bylaws and policies, and by God, we got a few. Councilor Cox.
I'll move that the consolidated rates and fees bylaw number 1076 be given third and final reading by title only.
Seconded, Mayor Ferguson. Any discussion? All in favor? Passed unanimously. SAO employment bylaw 1077. Councilor Baker.
I move that the SAO employment bylaw number 1077 be given first reading by title only.
Seconded. Deputy Mayor. Any comments? Seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously. SAO bylaw 1077, second reading. Can I get a mover? Councilor Tucky.
I move that the SAO employment bylaw number 1077 given second reading by title only.
Seconded. Councilor Cox. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Land disposal bylaw 1080. Mover? Councilor Baker.
I move that land dispersal of lot 1752, plan 4330, 23 Whitford Road, bylaw number 1080, be given first reading by title only.
Seconded. Mayor Ferguson. Any questions? Probably not. Oh, Deputy Mayor.
Is this, if I read this right, this is for housing, right? Did we not have a discussion a few meetings back about housing, dealing with vacant houses and burned houses before we gave them new lots? Has that changed at all at this point?
They're buying these.
They're
I know, but do we have any say in that at this point then? I guess is what I'm asking, because they've still got lots that aren't done and we're selling them more or less. Is that an issue for us or not? I guess is all I'm asking. If it isn't, then we'll go forward.
Councilor Cox?
I had the same concern, but I think it's a little bit different than the Pine Crescent lot, and I think, yeah, I don't know that we'd actually have a choice no matter, morally anyway or whatever, but it is getting houses out there. I really hope this doesn't mean that West Grove is gonna turn into a bunch of these big metal squares like they've done elsewhere. Hopefully there's an opportunity to catch that in our development permit stage. But in terms of them buying lots, I think it is what it is.
Okay, I just wanted to ask.
My thought.
Any further comments, questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously. Land disposal bylaw 1080, second reading. Councilor Cox.
I'll move that the land disposal of lot 1752, plan 4330, 23 Whitford Road, bylaw number 1080, be given first reading by title only.
Second reading.
Oh,
did
sorry,
first reading.
Second reading, sorry, yes.
Yes.
Second reading.
Okay, all in favor?
Did you get a seconder?
Oh, sorry.
You got a second reading, but not a second.
Seconder, Councilor Tucky. Now, any final comments? Deputy, or Mayor Ferguson.
I just had a follow-up thought to what Councillor Cox just asked, and I thought maybe Protective Services could answer, is will we see their drawings of their building before they build, or because it's building a home on a zoned home area, we won't see that drawing?
Director McNabb.
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. So while the development officer does have the ability to issue permits for unconditional uses like that, we do have the ability to bring any development forward for council to act as a development officer if it's the wish of mayor and council for us to use that approach for these housing lots. We could certainly bring those development applications forward to council for consideration rather than through the normal development officer process. Whether it's for information or for mayor and council to act as a development officer.
Mayor Ferguson.
Thank you. Just to follow up, we all know what we're talking about when we don't want to see the big square blocks in town. Does our zoning bylaw not already cover kind of a visual idea on what we want for our housing to look like when we build a new building or home in a community or a development or in a subdivision?
Thank you, Mayor Ferguson. During discussions as we built out the zoning bylaw, Mayor and Council took the position that we shouldn't be applying any requirements of appearance. So no, beyond meeting the building code by code.
Thanks.
Any further questions regarding the second reading? Seeing none, all in. Oh, okay.
Sorry.
All in favor? Passed unanimously. Land disposal bylaw 1081. Councilor Tucky.
I move that the land disposal of block 1759, plan 4330, 7 Whitford Road, bylaw number 1080, be given first reading by title only.
That should be 1081. I know there's a typo on the backer.
1081?
Yeah.
Yep. Seconder, Councilor Cox. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously. Land disposal bylaw 1081, second reading. Councilor Cox.
I'll move that the land disposal of lot 1759, plan 4330, 7 Whitford Road, bylaw number 1081, be given reading by second reading by title only.
Thank you. I know it's been long. Any questions? Councilor Benwell.
Wait, you need a seconder first.
Oh, second, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Councilman seconds.
Okay. Any questions? Other than my ability.
Questionable.
Okay, all in favor? Pass unanimously. Land disposal bylaw 1082. Council, or
I
Mayor,
move that
please.
land disposal lot of 1739 plan 4330-446 Calder Ave, bylaw number 1082 be given first reading by title only.
seconder, Councilor Cox. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously. Land disposal bylaw 1082, second reading. Mover.
I'll move that the land disposal of lot 1739 plan 4330-446 Calder Ave, bylaw number 1082 be given second reading by title only.
Seconder, Councilor Bader. All or questions? Sorry. Then all in favor? Passed unanimously. Land disposal bylaw 1082, second reading.
1083 is too.
Councilor Heaton.
Sure. I move that the land disposal of lot 1739, plan 4330-446 Calder Ave, bylaw number 1082 be given second reading by title.
We're actually at 1083.
Okay. I move that the land disposal of lot 1763, plan 4330-14 Woodford Road, bylaw number 1083 be given first reading by title only.
Seconded by Councilor Cox. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Passed unanimously. Land disposal bylaw 1083, second reading. Councilor Bader.
I move that land disposal of lot 1739, plan 4330, 14 Woodford Road, bylaw number 1083, be given second reading by title only.
Seconded, Mayor Ferguson. All in favor? Passed unanimously. Okay, we had fun with that. Okay, next item on our agenda is mayor and council. And the first name appearing here would be Councilor Benoit.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind everybody that the Red Dress March is coming up, and it's kind of a collaboration between the Friendship Center, the Métis, and band, and the college, and it'd be nice for everybody to get out there and support. And I was really happy to see that birdhouse on Sesame Street, St. Anne's, was cleaned up. It was almost cleaned up. But that's really nice to see. Thank you.
Okay, next on our list is Councilor Heaton.
Sure, I'm gonna definitely echo the May 5th Red Dress March, and then also the activities that are happening at Uncle Gabe's Friendship Center. The trade show was really well attended. I was there with the animal shelter, and I do want to thank the volunteers that helped with that, baking the dog balloons and setting it up, and then my table buddy Leva. I think we really hustled, and we were able to bring roughly around $800 for the animal shelter and got some more people on the volunteer list, so I'm really grateful for that. Back at Uncle Gabe's with the lunch program, still going strong, just a couple more months. The ladies at the thrift store with the Fields donations is crazy in there. So I just wish that the community just a little bit more patience with bringing in the donations, because we've still got a lot of cleaning up to do, and then also the transition from winter items into spring and summer.
So don't buy any rubber boots, people. If you need rubber boots, come to the thrift store, please. We have so many. And yeah, animal shelter, almost done my morning shifts there. So kiddos, if you need some calm hours before graduation, now's a good time to come on by. And I think the food bank as well is also looking for volunteers. So get your calm hours. Let's eat you.
We're reaching out to the cyber world, Councillor Karashak.
And I'm going to pass.
All right. Thanks everyone. I sat in on the Board of Revisions meeting last week, and it was just really eye-opening to see how just like the change in the assessments for the property assessments kind of has been understood by people, and I think we might hear or see more from people as they get their taxes and that sort of thing in the next little while, and just to be aware that that it is kind of like a process that people don't understand, but having the assessors from Yellowknife speak was really useful, both for the members of the board who are familiar with the process, but as well as the public. And so I think just awareness and that sort of thing, if we get pushback, there are those folks, those assessors in Yellowknife are really good communicators, and maybe we can lean into them a little bit in the future if need be. On another thing, just it's kind of a word on the street sort of thing, but I've been hearing that there has been potential for some cuts at GPT. And so just seeing that that's happened in other communities, it's essentially the loss of principal funding. I think any cuts in our community can have some pretty significant impacts to the whole community. So I think we've talked about just being a strong voice for the Northwest Territories as a whole, as far as education funding and support, and so I think there'll be some more communications coming out around that, and just like to see the council kind of supporting that push for more funding for education. I've been very involved in some big projects. The major projects office is talking about investment in the north, right? And I think that really should start with education, not just infrastructure. Those big projects, we're going to see southern companies benefiting from that over decades, or the future decades, right? And so I'd like to see people with strong educations coming from here in the Northwest Territories, growing up and being able to work in those industries that are being developed. That starts with having strong schools here in Portsmouth. Thank you.
Been a busy couple of weeks. Went to the Aurora College convocation on behalf of the town and presented our Duncan McPherson Community Service Award to Austin Blanchard. Apparently a very deserving candidate who does a lot of great work. Everybody was quite happy for him there. It was fun to make the presentation. A very nice setup, by the way, at the Salt River Band Office Conference Center. It was very nicely done. Attended the trade show I mentioned earlier all day, and was there to speak to any sort of issues. It was a fun day, and no really rough points. And the staff that were there it's easy to say, we're top drawer. They were all amazing. Every single one who were there worked hard, engaged with the community, had fun with the kids, talked to the elders. Everybody I saw was working hard. So kudos to all the staff who made the effort to get out there and do that stuff. Even the staff who weren't manning the table, but were running around emptying the garbage cans, and I saw them working too, and they were doing a great job. So good to all of our staff. They showed the town well. Also attended the tourism ITI lunch, sort of the capacity of deputy mayor, just to be involved to see what was going on. A lot of ideas discussed. Hopefully some things will come out of it. There were, I think, 2 people in the room that might be future outfitters. We can only hope. But there's a lot of discussion around things for Fort Smith and tourism. So that was an interesting thing. The food was good. Did I say that right? Mm-hmm. And are you going to speak to the meeting we had with the funding for housing? Because we had that as
In
well.
parks?
No.
Or half?
Half, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, well, half funding, we did a meeting, I was at as one of the board members, and we received and reviewed and approved three new submissions, right? So 3 more submissions for the half funding have been submitted to the town and approved. We did have a rough count, is that 6 now or something, or am I wrong on that?
I think so.
So we'd like to see more pickup on that, as Patty keeps saying to others, so get involved. If you know anybody out there that wants to build, talk to them. We'd like to see that program grow, but we did have 3 new ones, and we're very excited to see them all go through. And that was my list.
Awesome, thanks, Mike. Yeah, it's been busy, so I just wanted to touch base that we talked, council was here, I know Connie was here for that, and Mike, and the Mikes. We got to meet with the Mikes. We got to meet with the superintendent, sorry, the superintendent of Parks Canada, Jonathan Tetso. He was here and spoke to us on what was happening with, what's going on there and the transition that they're going through. And just some of the highlights of what I thought was the best thing that I heard from that meeting was that there's going to be 16 new housing units in Fort Smith to support what they're doing. And so that's great for us if they're building 16 new units. Not 60, 16, sorry, 16.
Not 6.
I thought that was really great. So that's an investment in our community. So it shows that they're gonna be here for a while, that they're, it's not going away, and we're not, so that's something to look forward to. Also, he spoke on the UNESCO World Heritage folks are coming to Fort Smith actually on their end. We won't probably see them, but just so that we know that they're going to be here in August to, I guess it's verify their position as a World Heritage Site, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, doing all the things that they're supposed to be doing. I think those were the best parts of that meeting.
Another key one, he will be vacating the superintendent job.
Oh, yeah.
For a higher level job, and the superintendent
of Parks Canada will be here in Fort Smith, in a Fort Smith position. Thank you.
That was good.
Yeah, that was a really good, that meeting took place on April 15th, and then on April 24th, on Friday was a huge busy day, but TLC met with Minister Caitlin Cleveland and the vice president of for the College of their Trades sector, the trade sector. And so you may know I send a lot of emails with crazy ideas. One of them actually stuck. And
oh God, no.
Yeah, in a good way. So I reached out to SSDC, the College Trades, TLC, everybody who I could think of to try and say that, hey, this is a great idea, why aren't we doing it? And it's with respect to having dual credit certification from our grade 12 students here. And so I think from that meeting, they can't do it. I thought Fort Smith would be a great place to host it as a pilot project and roll out for this fall. It won't be able to happen this fall, but they are going to work it into their system because everyone who was at that meeting said it was a fantastic idea. And so we should be seeing dual credit certification progress, and that Fort Smith is situated as the place to make that happen because of our proximity to the technical trade partner, which would be the Aurora College Center. So you could graduate with a high school diploma and graduate with a trade certificate or hours or something, however that looks, because it falls in line with the BC curriculum, because we've adopted that for our K-12, and that's what they do in BC. So naturally, it's a very easy transition to have that just follow suit with our transition into that programming. So hopefully we'll see some things. I can't believe one of my crazy ideas stuck somewhere. Usually I get shot down. So I just wanted to follow up with what Councillor Bay said. I'm working on a collaborative letter with respect to Jordan's principal with the mayor of Inuvik and the mayor of Yellowknife with exactly what you're talking about. And so we're really, Inuvik's got a lot of job losses, and Fort Smith now has some positions being maybe in the rumor will. So we have to really fight for what we have here, and I think there's a case to be made with respect to the allocation of funds for Indigenous children in our community. So hopefully we can advocate for that and make that happen here. And I just want to say kudos to Grenier. I saw you out when I was walking my dog. You had your crew working on a road for, it looked like 24 hours trying to get whatever was going on there with your hot seeing and all your stuff. So amazing. 2 days of straight hot seeing lines. Good job. Thanks.
I think I'll pass.
Okay.
Thanks, yeah, so I guess they covered the half committee stuff, that's great news on, hopefully some housing issues being addressed. Congratulations to the Aurora College grads, we just had our convocation last week, so there was a number of new graduates out and about. On an education note, I had an interesting conversation, actually I'll follow up with you after, about some industry folks at the trade show looking to align and talk to TLC about trying to generate apprenticeships and align with the college, so another potential opportunity there that I'll follow up on. I went to, not on the town front, but as a resident, and going to the NTPC water license meetings last week. So mostly just administrative. I think a few people there were there kind of more of interest of the big Tolson expansion project, which is a very separate thing. But a few items of note for this water license is, despite all the work that's been done at the dam, there's still more to go. There's potential for penstock refurbishment, surge tank needs a liner, they have to do anchors on the towers, and the transformer station and in-town upgrades. So hopefully that's all going to be aligned with their summer shutdowns, but I think we potentially need to prepare for more extended diesel time. So for the folks who live on that end of town, that might be something to prepare. Hopefully it goes according to plan in their shutdowns, but yeah, there's still work to be done, so something to be aware of. And I guess I would be remiss, it's almost May. By the time we're into our next council meeting, we will probably be in spring dip, so despite it being very white and snowy out there, now's the time to start thinking about spring cleanup and getting the yards clean, because we're gonna be very quick into fire smart season, so I know I'm usually raking the snow out of the way to get the leaves gone, because it's a very quick exchange and turnover there, so that's it, thanks.
Okay, thank you, and I will take a pass, as I'll just babble and not make any sense at this point. Okay, proclamations. There was no proclamations. Date of the next meeting. Regular meeting of council, protective and corporate services, May 5th, 2026 at 7 p.m. Do we have anybody wanting to?
I haven't chaired in a while.
Okay, so Mayor Ferguson will chair that. The following meeting is regular meeting of council, community and municipal, May 19th, 2026 at 7 p.m. And probably lasso somebody at the next meeting for that.
I think I'm due.
Nope.
I think I'll be here.
It's okay, if you want, we can put Councillor Cox in for the May 19th. Excusing of councillors, everybody is here, so we don't have to worry about that. Question period, does anybody know why we're here?
More for audience, I think.
Okay, Councillor Karashek, you're up, adjournment.
Okay, I move we adjourn at 9:24.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Cox, all in favor?
I like it.